going to church will not get you a participation trophy. You know, people think going to church is so important, and there is a point where church can be a good thing. But I want to read in Hebrews 10, starting in verse... Let's start in verse 19 just to get context. Therefore, brethren, since we have confidence to enter the holy place by the blood of Yeshua, by a new and living way, which he inaugurated for us through the veil, that is, his flesh, which is teaching all in itself. And since we have a great priest over the house of God, let us draw near with a sincere heart in full assurance of faith, having our hearts sprinkled clean with from an evil conscience, and our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds. That's what part of what we're supposed to do, is stimulate one another to love and good deeds. That's part of why we assemble. It says, not forsaking our own assembling together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. For if we go on sinning willfully after receiving the knowledge of the faith, there no longer remains a sacrifice for sins, but a terrifying expectation of judgment, and a fury of fire which will consume the adversaries. God is a consuming fire, but what is he consuming? He consumes his adversaries. Anyone who has set aside the law of Moses dies without mercy on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. How much severe punishment do you think he will deserve who has trampled under the foot the Son of God, and has regarded as unclean the blood of the covenant by which he was sanctified, and has insulted the Spirit of grace? For we know him who said, vengeance is mine, I will repay, and again, the Lord will judge his people. It is a terrifying thing to fall into the hands of the living God. But remember the former days when, after being enlightened, you endured a great conflict of sufferings, partly by being made a public spectacle through reproach and tribulations, and partly by becoming sharers with those who were so treated. For you showed sympathy to the prisoners and accepted joyfully the seizure of your property, knowing that you have for yourselves a better possession and a lasting one. Therefore do not throw away your confidence, which has a great reward. For you have need of endurance, so that when you have done what the will of God, you may receive what was promised. For yet a very little while he who is coming will come and will not delay. But my righteous one shall live by faith, and if he shrinks back, my soul has no pleasure in him. But we are not those who shrink back to destruction, but those who have faith to the preserving of the soul. And so, you know, when you read that, you know, it's a terrifying thing to fall under the judgment of the Lord, the hand of the Lord. But we can approach with confidence if we live his ways. You know, the fact of the matter is, and well, let's look at here, 2 Timothy chapter 2, starting in verse 4. No soldier in active service entangles himself in the affairs of everyday life, so that he may please the one who enlists him as a soldier. You know, we do this stuff. We're not here to just participate. We're here to be a light. We're not here to get a participation trophy. You don't go get a participation trophy by showing up to church. And it's about getting rewards. It's not about getting a participation trophy just for showing up to church or doing little things. The whole point is shining, being a light, being an ambassador for the kingdom, being an ambassador for Christ. That's how people end up in the kingdom. And just like it says, there remains, in Hebrews, we talked about, actually, that was the other one, that there remains no sacrifice for those that trample on the blood of Yeshua. We're not here, it's not a participation thing, just participating all of a sudden. It's a lifestyle. It's about a lifestyle. It's not about, oh, well, I went to church so many times. That doesn't get it. I could care, that just like it says of the Pharisees, they worship me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. It's about the heart. The pure in heart shall see God. Not the people that go through the motions. Going through the motions isn't going to accomplish a darn thing. It has to be in your heart. Torah is written upon your heart. Times will come. Here's 2 Timothy chapter 2. Verse 7, it says, always learning and never able to come to a knowledge of the truth. What is the truth? The Torah. A knowledge of the Torah. It's about lifestyle. It isn't about church attendance. Just as, and it lists a couple of people opposed Moses, so these men also opposed the truth. Men of depraved mind rejected in regard to the faith. But it says, like it talks about, if you go back to the beginning of chapter 3, it says, but realize this, that in the last days difficult times will come. For men will be lovers of self, lovers of money, boastful, arrogant, revilers, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, unloving, irreconcilable, and we have even though we have a ministry of reconciliation, some are going to be irreconcilable. Malicious gossips, without self-control, brutal, haters of good, treacherous, reckless, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, holding to a form of godliness, although they have denied its power. Avoid such men as these, for among them are those who entered into households and captivated weak women, weighed down with sins, led on by various impulses, always learning but never coming to a knowledge of the truth. So it's about a lifestyle. But you can read in Matthew 24 where it says, the love of many will go cold, will wax cold, because of lawlessness, Torahlessness. And you read in toward the idea of we don't get a participation trophy. You go to Ezekiel 33. Ezekiel 33. And I would suggest reading from verse 7 for sure. Well, actually read all of 33. When I say the righteous will this is verse 13. When I say to the righteous, he will surely live, and he so trusts in his righteousness that he commits iniquity, none of his righteous deeds will be remembered, but in the same iniquity will be remembered. But in that same iniquity of his which he has committed, he will die. And then verse 18. When the righteous turns from his righteousness and commits iniquity, then he shall die in it. But when the wicked turns from his wickedness and practices justice and righteousness, he will live by them. Yet you say the way of the Lord is not right. O house of Israel, I will judge each of you according to his ways. Verse 11, it says, say to them, as I live, declares the Lord Yahweh, I take no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but rather with that the wicked turn from his way and live. Turn back from your evil ways. Why then will you die, O house of Israel? 12. And you, the son of man, say to your fellow citizens, the righteousness of the righteous will not deliver him in the day of his transgression, and as for the wickedness of the wicked, he will not stumble because of it. And in the day when he turns from his wickedness, whereas the righteous man will not be able to live by his righteousness on the day when he commits sin. So that kind of shows it's not once saved, always saved. It's not about church attendance. You don't get a participation trophy. You get rewards by how you live your lifestyle. Do you love one another? Do you care for other people? Are other people more important than yourself? So those are the things to consider. Are we loving one another? Are we keeping the Sabbath and the holy days with joy? God loves a cheerful giver. We give, we do a head covering, or we do beards, or we do tzitzit, because we love Him. Yes, it sets us apart, and yes, we may have tribulation because of it. It says those who choose to live godly lives will be persecuted. But we're not here to just participate. We're here to be a light. As disciples of Yeshua, we're here to be a light. That's what we're here. That's what we need to do. And it's not once saved, always saved. Going to church doesn't get you a participation trophy. Shalom, shalom, and may Yahweh bless and keep you and make His face shine upon you and give you His peace, and may His grace be upon you. Shalom, shalom.